Since July 1974, David C. Jones has been Chief of Staff. He says he heads the #1 Air Force in the world, and he wants to keep it that way. Any way you look at it, he's certainly become the uncommon Jones.
Yours can be traced back to boyhood years in Minot, North Dakota. It was then, ladies and gentlemen, that young Dave Jones spent many hours at the local airport talking to anyone sharing his interest in flying. When World War II came, he left college to join the Air Force as an aviation cadet. He took advanced flying instruction at Pecos, out in the Big Bend country. Thereafter, his assignments included operational and command positions in tactical fighter, bomber, tanker, and training units, as well as staff assignments in the Strategic Air Command and the Air Force Headquarters. I am honored to present to you the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force, General David C. Jones.
My Chief of Staff just told me, leaned over and said, keep it short. Congressman Kazin, thank you for the very fine words. It's a great honor to work with you on the Hill. There's one clear-cut advantage the United States...
It takes a lot of work in preparing to go before a public audience. I do not have a speechwriter. I do the work myself. I normally don't use a script. And I find it comes across much better when it's my own thoughts, and be able to sense the audience is much more effective than just stand there and read.
We've got fine young people that have all the courage and dedication of their predecessors, those who came before them. Just like to cite a couple of instances. The tragic C-5 accident with the Orphans. But if you look at the coolness and the performance of that crew, that very young crew. Here they are climbing through 23,000 feet with 330 people aboard, and all of a sudden the explosive decompression and the full rear of the airplane blows out.
And when it broke, the force of the air going out literally ripped this door, this panel, right across like so. And it hung on here. And then this whole panel rotated down about a 90-degree angle. This piece is vertical, and as it rotated, it pushed up, hitting the control cables right up there and the hydraulic line.
How much pressure in a door in total pounds? It was about 5 or 6 psi.
The essence of it. Okay. Now, what we're doing, of course, is...
Well, I always tell everybody I got 4 full-time jobs. One of them is to work with the Congress and other departments of the government. And one of them is to deal with the public, because we need support of the public, and to see that we in the military we don't have fire coming out of our ears, and that we are broad and interested in our country. So there's a great deal. Today, out in the field and visiting Kelly and Lackland and the OTS.
Good morning, sir. Officer Queenie Bertram, sir. Linda McDonald, the Assistant Deputy Commander. A normal Saturday morning commander's call. He was going to brief you, I'll tell you now. We didn't know who it was going to be until about a half hour ago, and the guys went in and war hooped, and they're all assembled in one room. But there are commander's calls in 4 places here this morning. We'll take you to one of them.
Okay. I wouldn't mind sticking my head in all forward just to say hello.
Mighty fine.
Yes.
Quite a few of us here are graduates of the AECP program. This is the program through which we're receiving our commissions. I wonder if you could give us the current status on the AECP program, and what are the chances for having the program fully reinstituted?
We're working hard to get it reinstituted, but I believe we ought to have a program. We're in the Air Force, we're convinced to give to people in the enlisted ranks an opportunity to become commissioned and to go away to school and then to come to the program here and receive a commission in the Air Force. We've been working on the Hill. I would say we have a good chance of getting it this year, but I wouldn't want to give any guarantees. But I just want you to know we're committed. Yes.
Foresee any change in the manpower requirements of the Air Force as a result of détente?
Well, not so much détente, but sort of the post-Vietnam situation. Our military services have decreased in size very substantially since the peak in 68 and 69. In fact, the United States and Soviet Union had about the same number of people under arms in 1968, but when you compare it today, they have almost twice as many as we do. Unless the world situation changes, I would expect that we have pretty well leveled off, give or take a little bit, and this will give us some degree of stability. There is concern on the Hill that we don't have a high enough enlisted to officer ratio, so our officers probably will come down some, but we want to do it in a way for the years ahead, beyond this year, where we don't have to riff. 22nd day?
Yes, sir.
I run 2 miles every morning, and I find if I'm someplace I can't run in about 2-3 days, I can notice the difference in how I feel. I get logy. I'll have a little corn, please. A little bit, just a little corn, a little, and just a few beans. Well, let's sit down and eat before everything gets cold. Let's see. California, Indiana, Wisconsin, New York. No North Dakotans? You all about the same? I mean, about... How many? 9 days to go.
I have 5 days to go.
Oldest in time of service at Lockwood, huh? I assume he's looking after you? Giving you what help? I make a point when I go out on trips to visit with our reserve components equally as with our active, because they are part of us and are important to the Air Force and to our country. Are you doing a phase?
Aircraft in phase.
How are you? See ya. How are you? Thank you. Don't fall off there while you're saluting. Sergeant, how are you today?
Very good.
I see you. How are you doing? A phase?
Yes, sir.
How's the aircraft?
Real
Holding
good.
up pretty well?
Yes, sir. We've been on it a week now.
You getting much sheet metal? Fatigue problems?
Yes, sir. On the tips, wing tips. Of course, now since they came out with that message where we check the screws on every phase inspection.
How many people you have working for you?
I just have 3 certs in my particular phase, Doc.
You ought to know what you're doing. To try to deal with people most of the time, because I find that that's much more interesting, rewarding. You get a better feel of what's going on rather than dealing with paper. But the days are varied. In the spring, up through about this time, tremendous amount of time in working with Congress.
His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Germany.
Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, you have invited me to address you. I appreciate this special gesture. I respond by expressing the deep respect which every Democrat owes to this outstanding assembly. The world is fraught with unrest and problems, and I am grateful.
And we have far more new members, and they're very inquisitive. They want to learn. They want more information, and therefore it takes a lot of time. And then there's being a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which is demanding, and then there's running the Air Force. I don't put that last in priority, but there's those 4 responsibilities. The days will vary tremendously. Joint Chiefs of Staff, we normally meet 3 times a week.
I understand that during the Maguire situation that you were very involved with the Joint Chiefs of Staff in that situation. Is there anything that you could share with us regarding that?
Yes, I had the great responsibility and honor to be the acting chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during the Maguire incident, and participated fully in the discussions and the deliberations of the National Security Council with the President and with the meeting of the leaders of Congress as the operation got underway. And it was very reassuring. From the time we walked in on Monday morning and sat around a table like this with the President, it was absolutely clear that we were going to act and that we were going to be successful. There wasn't any doubt about it. There wasn't any doubt about who was in charge. You know, the President. And he wanted to examine the options and the alternatives. And then when we looked it over, he made the decision, calmly, coolly, with dispatch. During the war in Vietnam, one of our problems is our objectives were never clear, and the nation was never determined to be successful. In this incident, it was clear from the start that our objective was to recover that crew and that ship, and to do it in the proper way. The Air Force played a major role. Although the publicity of the Air Force's role wasn't that great, all of the helicopters that took the Marines in and out were Air Force. The gunships overhead, the command and control aircraft, most of the tactical fighters involved, Air Force. And their great feats of heroism, of our helicopter crews in particular, going in time after time, and each time under heavy fire, as many as 5 times into the island, going into very small landing zones, and picking up the very large numbers. In one case, 60 people aboard that helicopter. And as long as we have people like that, there's nothing to worry about for our country.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America and Mrs. Ford.
What did you do in the last few days?
Well, returned to San Antonio on Sunday after having visited Kelly and the Officer Training School and the basic military training and the Texas Air National Guard, and making a speech to the Air Force Association Saturday night. Back Sunday, a little time with the family, catch up a little bit on paperwork. Monday, I guess the main event was going to the White House as the acting chairman and participating in the ceremony for the arrival of the President of the Federal Republic of Germany. A busy Monday involved mainly in Air Force business. We did not have a meeting with the Secretary of Defense, so tried to get some Air Force business done. Tuesday, in the morning, over to Capitol Hill to be on the floor of the House when President Shield delivered his speech to the joint session of Congress, and then back in the afternoon to the Pentagon, out to Andrews to meet Air Chief Marshal Humphrey, back to the Pentagon, meet with one of my major air commanders and talk about some of the issues involved in his organization. Dinner with at our quarters last night with Air Chief Marshal Humphrey, and then to the office early this morning for a little while, and now en route out to Andrews again to fly down to Norfolk to the Armed Forces Staff College event. I'm proud of the Air Force. I'm proud to be their chief. We've got improvements we can make. We will make improvements. We'll make mistakes, but want you to know that the heart's in the right place. We're just trying to make a great service better.
Thank you.